Now for this hour, we start with Middle East. The Israeli Defense Ministry has released a statement stating that U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth reassured Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz during an overnight call, telling him to keep going until the end and affirming that the United States was with them. Meanwhile, Katz has thanked Hegseth for extensive U.S. assistance in defending Israeli citizens against the Iranian missile threat. This affirmation comes amid the ongoing military operations in the region. The statement underscores the continued strong support between the two nations, particularly in defense matters. The close communication signals the U.S.'s commitment to backing Israel through its military endeavors. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Gigi Davidi. He's a war veteran and professor of international relations and strategic studies. Joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at Israel and U.S.'s coordination, some of our guests have respectfully stated that they don't agree that they are as cooperative or are in exactly same page right now towards this ongoing war. What's your take? Do you think they're completely aligned?
Thank you, Soma. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
Same.
Well, this operation has been undertaken jointly by America and Israel, and they had codenamed the operation as Rising Lion and the Epic Fury. So there was total sync in the war objectives and also in the planning and execution, which we have seen for last 6 days. So therefore, I don't think that there is any difference among the two countries as far as the strategic objectives are concerned. And they are very, very clearly defined. First is to defend the Iranian forces. This degrade and destroy its capacity as far as the missile and the nuclear capability is concerned. Also destroy his navy, weaken the Iranian capability to wage proxy wars in the region, and of course they also decapitate the leadership of Iran. So all these objectives are, I think, jointly evolved, and they are being executed jointly so far. Of course, there could be some difference in their execution or in the operation matters. Well, that is always there, because after all, everything doesn't go as per the plans, and the certain issues would always come up which can be ironed out. And you saw there was a conversation between Defense Secretary Hegseth and also the Defense Minister of Israel, Katz, and they have agreed to carry on, and both have assured each other the support. And I'm sure such dialogue also would be taking place between the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and also the President of America, President Trump. So therefore, I don't think that there is a major difference between the two. However, there could be certain issues on which the both may have their own perspective, and but these are all ironed out at the joint planning at the joint conferences. So I don't think that there is a major difference between the two, because the war as it's going on, definitely it's going on very much in the favor of Americans and Israelis, and quite rightly they have been able to achieve part of the objectives, and until the objectives are achieved, they have to carry on, because after all the wars are fought for certain political and military objectives, and they are taken to finality once those objectives are achieved, so that the negotiation process can start again. Asuma.
And building on that, how do you think how are Arab countries eyeing this cooperation between U.S. and Israel? Because also according to some reports in media, they say that Arab countries are upset with the alignment because U.S. is sending all the advanced weapons in defense of Israel, and not those countries which are also now being attacked because of holding US's base.
That's true. If you see how the Iranian missiles have been hitting targets as far as Israel is concerned, you see, Israel has its own very formidable defense, as against the uh, hostile warheads or hostile projectiles, because after all, Israel have been fighting the war for last over 75 years, Asuma, and they have built up their own systems. That is, the Iron Dome is there, David Sling is there, the Arrow missile cover is there. So obviously, they are very well prepared. But as far as the Gulf countries are concerned, well, they have been totally dependent on Americans, and as it appears to be that Americans have primarily focused on defending their own military assets in these countries, and they are not actually gone in for the larger air defense of the whole region at large. That's why number of missiles have hit the non-military targets like hotels, airport, and other commercial centers. So to that extent, I think their fears or their anxiety or their concern are well founded, because it doesn't appear that Americans have devoted enough to the overall air defense of the countries, but confining themselves largely to their bases, and that's why number of missiles have been able to hit the targets in the Gulf countries, primarily the commercial target, but they have not been able to cause any major damage as far as the military bases or military installations are concerned. Asuma.
Thank you very much, Major General, for sharing that insight. Please do stay with us as we come back to you. Now, the Israeli military has reportedly launched a large-scale wave of airstrikes targeting key infrastructure across the Iranian capital of Tehran. This action is part of Israel's ongoing military operations against what it calls the Iranian terror regime. Moreover, in response to de-escalating tensions in the Middle East, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has confirmed in Parliament that Australia's military assets have been deployed to the region. While he did not provide specific details, the move signals Australia's active engagement on the ongoing crisis. Let's now listen into his statement.
The government is deploying 6 crisis response teams to the region, and we've already deployed military assets as part of our contingency planning earlier this week. I thank those Australians who are going into a dangerous situation in order to help their fellow Australians caught up in this conflict.
In a related development, the Canadian government is also working to assist nationals caught in the Middle East. According to Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand, at least 2,035 Canadians have requested help to leave the region. The government is offering chartered flights, commercial bookings, and ground transport where possible. Canada's Foreign Minister says that 74 Canadians have asked for evacuation in Iran alone, while additional consular staff have been deployed to neighboring countries to assist with border crossings. Anand has further stated that the UAE has seen 1,171 requests, while Qatar has reported 237. There are also requests from Canadians in Lebanon and Israel. Let's now listen in to what she has shared.
Of the 106,000 Canadians in the region, 2,035 have contacted Global Affairs Canada for assistance with egress. I want to speak directly now to Canadians in the Middle East and Gulf region. Your government is with you. We are working hard for you, and we are arranging options for you to leave the region. Our government has developed options for Canadians seeking to leave the region. These options are threefold. 1, a limited number of chartered flights. 2, block booking of seats on commercial flights. 3, ground transportation services, certain cases where it is safe.
Now we welcome back Major General, retired Major General Gigi Dividi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now looking at this, Australia is being involved by giving more support. Is this part of AUKUS, or why is it doing this now?
Suma, Australia
Yes.
and the Americans, they are the allies. In fact, also New Zealand, because they have a defense pact. And America has about 2,500 troops based in Australia. So this is quite expected that the allies will always come together during the time of crisis. And that's what has been stated by the Australian Prime Minister Albanese, that they have deployed their assets in support of America going on war with Iran, and their assets are being operationally deployed. And so, therefore, this doesn't come as a surprise because it's in keeping with the Defence Treaty and Defence Pact, and it's quite expected that Australian would have joined in. Not only Australian, even other allies like UK, France, Germany, they have committed their support, though largely to the defensive operation. Even Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, has said that options of participating in such operation which are going on is well on the cards. While as of now they have not really committed, but that option still remains. So the point I'm trying to make is that alliances, defense partnerships are built for such contingencies, and Australia joining the war and actively participating is quite in keeping with the traditional partnership and defense alliances, and this has not come as an unexpected development. It was anticipated, and more would join in time to come, because after all, these partnership and alliances are tested during such circumstances, and they only validate the credibility of such alliances when they are actually executed on the ground in an event of eventuality, which is right now on. That is the war between America and Israel joint against the Iran. So therefore, I think this is very much expected on the cards, and it should not have come as a surprise. Asuma.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to thank Major General G.G. Vidivedi for always joining us and sharing that insight with us. Thank you. Now we move on to